Welcome to the a16z podcast. I'm Michael Copeland, and this is the e-commerce edition. I know everyone has shopping on their minds. And no better person to talk about this than Jeff Jordan, general partner here at Andreessen Horowitz. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks very much, Michael.
So I want to dig into this, and you raised this really interesting point and this observation. It's been coming for a couple of years now, but especially last holiday shopping season that, there's the sort of expectations of all of us out there. And then there's the realities, of in the logistics kind of sense of meeting those expectations. So describe for us a little bit what you mean. And you describe it as a collision between expectation and reality. But so describe that for us.
So it's a high quality problem for e-commerce companies to have. But, first, e-commerce continues to grow and gain share. So there's more volume being done. At the same time, the Amazonization of e-commerce is increased consumer expectations on if I order it today, it's here tomorrow.
Right.
And the real collision came last year on the right before Christmas, because everyone said, okay, on the December 23rd, I can place orders and get them on the 24th, and I'm a hero on Christmas. And everyone placed those orders, and it just flat out overwhelmed the carriers, UPS, USPS. They couldn't handle the flow, and they in many cases failed to get the package there. And the day after Christmas stories are failure UPS, failure e-commerce, failure everything. And it was a problem that is erupted out of a high quality issue, which is the share gain, and the share tsunami is getting so big that it overwhelmed the infrastructure.
Right. So from hero to goat, unfortunately, I guess. So how did we get there? I mean, you mentioned Amazon. Is it Amazon's kind of, raising the bar for everyone, or is there something else in combination with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Amazon is raising the bar for everyone. They keep improving the service that is just a core expectation. A free delivery, same day delivery, free returns. They just keep making their customer support better, and they have the scale to be able to invest behind great customer support. So if you're an e-commerce company, it's better service, fast shipping is getting to be table stakes for more concepts. It was funny, Zulily, which is a flash sales business, does not do immediate shipping. They take like 10 days. And a number of Wall Street analysts said, that can't work, because the consumer expects it. In Zulily's case, they're offering such a great value and such a great merchandise selection that mom is willing to wait. And if she needs it tomorrow, she knows she shouldn't buy it on Zulily. But it's funny, everyone else is in the free return, next day shipping, and all that.
So, I mean, the Zulily example makes me think that as long as you are clear about, setting expectations on your side.
And delivering a value prop. If you're competing directly with Amazon, selling the same goods, but we ship them a week later, and it's just not going to work. Right. But you need the differentiated value proposition.
So, I want to get into how to compete with Amazon in a little bit, but let's remind everyone, for starters, both on the online side, but also in physical retail, the holiday shopping season accounts for what in sort of ballpark terms?
For physical retailers, it's close to all their profits. I mean, it's called Black Friday because it's when the retailer went from being in the red to being in the black, turning a profit. So, when I was at the Disney store, I think it was over 40% of sales happened in the fourth quarter. But but then given all the fixed costs in retail, that over delivery of sales just gushes into profit. So it really is where most retailers, particularly anyone who's involved, whose business improves through gifting, makes all their money.
Right. So let's get back to this sort of collision idea. What are both shippers and companies what are you observing them doing to forestall kind of those tragedies again this year?
I mean, they're trying to get out in front of it. And there's a story in the newspaper a couple weeks ago about UPS and USPS proactively going to the companies and saying, how much last day shipping do you want to basically reserve? Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's all you're going to get. So you have to, and then they're trying to optimize their system to be able to scale and deliver that, which means massive hiring of seasonal workers and things along those lines. But they're trying to, get in front of it such that, if Christmas overall is up 12% online or something like that, that last day could be up 25% or 50% because of the combination of share shift and expectation shift. And so they're trying to get out in front of it and work with their e-commerce companies to say, don't do it. I mean, when I was at eBay, we were ecstatic if people would order for Christmas by December 10th.
Right.
Because then our community, we kind of say, okay, we should stop promoting, the fact that you can do Christmas gifts 2 weeks out. And now it's, the companies on the 23rd were saying, we can get it to you. We can get it to you. It's just a different world.
And it's interesting that in some situations you can, certainly, but not when everybody and their mother is doing the same thing.
If everyone does all their shopping on one day, you'd build your entire supply chain for that massive peak, and that's just not sustainable.
So that gets to a question of forecasting. And do you think e-commerce companies and physical retailers and sort of the combination of the two have enough visibility to really make those calls when UPS comes knocking and says, look, this is all you get, and USPS, the same thing. Is it that fine-tuned yet, or is there something more information that we could use?
They're unknowns. And a couple unknowns is it going to be a good holiday season or not? The calendar changes. I used to be CFO of the Disney store, and we would have a daily forecast for the holiday. We also had a pool going who was going to be closest, down to every day based on how many days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, prior year weather patterns you're trying to normalize for blizzards and things like that. So, I mean, there's an enormous amount of effort that goes into it. That said, then there are the unknowns like, how many consumers will wait to the last minute this year because they've been conditioned that they can.
Right. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will put you on the spot. Given that sort of long experience that you have, do you have any sort of spidey sense for how this shopping season might go?
The only spidey sense is the macro spidey sense is that the e-commerce guys are going to have a joyous Christmas with lots of continued share gains and continued growth, and the mall-based retailers are going to have another tough holiday season. I mean, you look at the macros in physical retail, and they're just dismal and gloomy.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about mall-based retailers. I mean, what are we actually starting to see when you walk into a mall that are manifestations of that macro problem?
First is vacancies. I mean, there's something like a quarter of malls have over 30% of their storefronts vacant. When you walk into a mall like that, you feel like you've walked into a ghost town. I mean, they're just dying a slow death. I tweeted I blogged on this a while back, but my favorite quote from one of the REITs, the real estate trust that does retail space, was, "We're not overbuilt, we're under demolished." And frankly, those 25% of malls just need to go away, and they will go away soon. Some are being repurposed into other areas and things like that.
I've seen some photo series where this guy goes into basically vacant malls and does these they're like ghost towns, and he takes all these
deadmalls.com. I think it's the URL.
It's eerie and yet just fascinating.
And I mean the whole subculture. I mean they call the storefront that used to have the store sign, but now the sign's been taken down because it's out of business. They call it label scars.
Oh God, that sounds like more of a Halloween story. So when you look at online versus physical, what are some trends that you're seeing? Through the entire year, is physical retail responding in some ways that make sense? Is there a hybrid model that seems to be working for anyone?
The buzzword right now is omni-channel. We have stores and a website, and we have advantages in having both of those because you can order online, return at the store. You can order online, pick up in the store, as the saying goes. I think most of that is hyperbole. I think most of the retailers are keeping their store base open, incurring the additional costs of having an online store, and they're still not online presence, and they're still not growing. So omni-channel there means, okay, I'm going to take my cost uncompetitive physical business and layer in additional cost over it and not end up with more costs and the same amount of sales. And that just doesn't end well. So you're seeing trends. Some retailers are embracing reality. I think Staples is right now up to something like 40% online. and they're starting to close stores pretty furiously.
Right.
Because, they understand that, if you have your store cost base and your online cost base, you're less competitive than a pure play office supply store. So as they're successfully hollowing out the sales in their store through online purchases, they're closing stores. And that is a rational behavior. Very few retailers are doing it at any kind of scale, to the scale that they need to do it, to truly kind of leverage their physical presence into a really strong and profitable online presence.
And online, the trends are, and when you step back and actually look at the overall revenue figures, online is still a relatively small, percentage of overall sales, and yet it's growing like mad.
Yeah, it's growing really strongly, and I think the overall average is something like 8 or 9% of retail in the U.S. now happens online. But the layer below that, things get really interesting because grocery and personal care, the two largest categories, are included in that, and they're largely not online very much. Although with Instacart, we hope one of them goes online very quickly. But then you get into what I call the specialty retail categories: apparel, home. Media, they are growing and are sizable. So, some of those categories are already 20, 25%. All of them are in the teens. And so, the size of the total market in most of those categories isn't growing that strongly because the U.S. economy isn't growing that strongly. It's about the same now as it was before the 2008, 2009 financial statement. But this portion of the pie that's taken by online has exploded, which means the remaining pie available to the rest of retailers is shrinking. And so you're seeing that take kids apparel. They're called the 3As, Abercrombie, American Eagle, and I forget my third A. They're just getting crushed because teenagers are ordering online maniacally, and the amount left for them in malls is just shriveling up.
So is the holiday season, even though it accounts for sort of the majority of profits, is it an anomaly in terms of like us rushing out and walking the streets and going to stores, or does that not even happen as much as we think it does?
It's happening less, less and less. More and more people are shopping online for the holidays, and you're seeing tangible manifestations. They're talking about traffic declines. Where it really came home to me last Christmas was Starbucks in their fourth quarter earnings call came in light on the revenue line, and they blamed the fact that their stores in malls experienced declining year-over-year foot traffic. Fewer people are in the stores; they're shopping online.
Right. So fewer people pounding the pavement for last-minute gifts or whatever, and guzzling venti lattes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating. You're getting second, third order effects. Who would have thought? Starbucks is vulnerable to the surge in e-commerce.
Let's get to the biggest player in the e-commerce firmament, Amazon. You have written and talked a lot about how to compete with Amazon. Amazon always seems to sort of do something every year to distance itself even further. I don't know if we have seen what that is this holiday season yet, but what is Amazon so good at? And then how do you advise, some of your companies and just retailers in general on how to compete with Amazon?
Amazon is at a scale that it's kind of hard to fathom relative to the rest of the e-commerce world. I've done some back-of-the-envelope calculations that Amazon, if you take their first-party business and their third-party business and normalize it for consumer sales, they represent about $1 in $5 spent on the internet. Wow. Interestingly, eBay also represents about $1 in $5 spent on the internet. They're sellers in aggregate. That means the entire rest of the every other e-commerce company and physical company is fighting for that 60%. Amazon's bigger than the next 15 players or some number like that. I put it in a blog a little while ago. So they have such scale, and they're just ruthless at leveraging that scale into lower and lower costs that they translate into better and better customer experience in terms of lower costs as well as higher quality service, like free shipping, overnight shipping. That they're just brutal to compete with.
So in that sense, we talked about this collision. Is Amazon immune to that at some level, just because their own infrastructure is so resilient and massive for that matter?
I think they would like to make themselves more immune to it. I've got a thesis that they will soon be. I think they are already entering the shipping market, cherry picking the best, the lowest cost shipments. They are trying to do themselves increasingly, and just leave UPS with the higher cost shipments, which is a very rational thing to do. They're just cherry pick off. But they're Amazon trucks running around. Amazon Fresh now is, those trucks are constantly in the city. I don't think it's a far reach to expect to see, non-grocery goods starting to run around on the Amazon trucks.
But so you talk about, this is interesting. You talk about high cost sort of shipping addresses versus lower cost, and Amazon is keeping the lower cost or easier ones for itself. What's the difference? I thought an address was an address.
It's a density play. So if when you're in a city, a truck can go and within X blocks it can deliver, and it's incredible. They're just the delivery guy is literally walking from door to door to door. You see him in our office complex. He's got the rolling cart with the pile of boxes, half of which are Amazon boxes. Now you go out into the suburbs or up in the hills, or take it to farmlands to get to deliver, the dairy farmers in Wisconsin, rural Wisconsin's package, you're not going to be anywhere near as efficient. And what's happening in the overall mix at UPS is it's because of the growth in e-commerce, it's going more and more, it's being skewed more and more towards those more expensive residential deliveries relative to business deliveries.
Right.
And they've got concerted efforts to reduce their costs materially in order to maintain their competitiveness in cost as well as their profit margins.
And so in this trend toward, same day, same hour delivery, that's just going to get harder and harder to do.
Yeah, there's scale advantages to that too. I mean, I believe USPS is been having been running a massive loss for many, many, many years.
Right.
I mean, for me, the best outcome is either one of two people buys it and basically privatizes it, UPS or Amazon. And so it's because I think Amazon, if you're 1 in 5 retail dollar already and you're gaining share, you can efficiently start thinking about shipping options.
Right, and you also will need the help at some level.
Yeah, at some point you overwhelm everyone else. Yeah. And if you have the ability to do it, you're going to differentiate yourself, and they have the scale to have the ability.
Wait, but I thought all of this was going to happen by drones.
Yeah, they would say, don't get me there.
All right, well, so we're not going to see drones delivering holiday gifts.
Not this year. I mean, it's a serious effort, and there were companies well before Amazon's announcement on 60 Minutes, running around with the business plan, raising money for that very use case.
Right.
I mean, it's an intriguing use case in the right things. So, I mean, for me, it's not absurd at all.
Okay. So let's get back to competing with Amazon. Amazon's got all this scale. We know what they sort of are up against and the advantages they have. Given that, what do you tell companies, and when you think about it, what are ways to go after them?
You just have to. You want to avoid selling the same merchandise that they sell in some form. So there are a lot of strategies to be able to do that. Zulily and Fab aggregated a long tail of designers who lack national distribution. Most of the goods they sell are not on Amazon, and if they are on Amazon, they're not. They're typically more impulse purchases. They're not the kind of things you search for.
Right.
For me, Amazon's a search engine. You can build your own product. We have a couple investments, Julep and Walker & Co. in beauty and personal care for people of color, respectively, where they're building products that they elect not to sell through Amazon because they can control the distribution of their own product. That avoids head-to-head price comparison. You can go in categories where Amazon isn't particularly strong. In spite of a lot of efforts, they're not that. They're good. They're really strong in hard goods and mass marketed UPC code type things. They're not that good in soft goods, and that's a whole big slice of retail. And then you can do alternative distribution methods, monthly subscriptions, boxes, personalized, offerings to people, like Stitch Fix or Trunk Club do.
Right. So you get a monthly or weekly or whatever selection of curated things.
Yeah, so that you're playing convenience, you're playing curation. There's a number of ways you're doing, but again, you're desperately avoiding the huge elephant feet that come down if you sell what Amazon sells.
Right. Let's shift gears a little bit to payments. We're all waiting to see how, now with the iPhone 6 out there, how Apple Pay plays out. First, who does that help from your perspective, and how much of a change is it going to be in the retail landscape?
I mean, the person it helps is, I mean, it helps a lot of people. It helps Apple, clearly, if they sell
Apple
more
doesn't
devices.
do anything that doesn't help Apple.
Yeah, they're good for that. It helps the credit card industry. I mean, basically, for me, this whole innovation is just another form factor for credit cards at this point. At one point, the credit card companies were trying to get you to do these little teeny credit cards that you put on your keychain, and then they're all different form factors. But this is still a overlay leveraging the entire credit card transactional, the rails they're called. As a result, essentially, it's a small tax on top of what's already a huge tax on payment. So a credit card payment, runs something like 2.5% to 3% of the cost of credit cards, run to 2.5%-3% of sales for different merchants. This will just raise that number because Apple's now going to take a vig on top of what the credit cards already take.
Right.
And and a lot of people think the merchants pay that. I believe the consumer pays that. Just because the merchants pass on the cost, those costs, for their profit margins. So I think it helps them, but I don't see it as a huge payment innovation. It's a new form factor on top of credit cards.
But given Apple's scale, are we apt to see actually people using it?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. It's probably not a huge technology innovation. It's a pretty good exhibit of their business power and the power of their network, where banks look at this and goes, Apple's doing it. It could explode. We need to support it. So they lined up to support it really quick. Plus it reinforces and supports their credit card business. So at this point, it's not a threat at all. And then, a lot of retailers looked at it and go, oh my God, if there are all these iPhones and we don't accept it, we might lose share. So the respect and almost fear of Apple led everyone to say, we can't ignore it. We have to support it unless they are working to support a competing standard.
Yeah, in my mind, it seems to me one of those things that's for physical retail, right? Like you whip out your phone and then pay with it. So it may help physical retailers more than online, but it doesn't sound to me like you think it's a big game changer.
I mean, it could work. All it's going to do is, continue the move towards electronic payments, both credit and debit gaining share as a percent of total payments. And I agree with that statement. I think it's much more of a physical retail innovation than an online innovation. That said, I will tell you, I think the credit card is a pretty good customer experience. At physical retail, you take it out of your wallet, you swipe it, and you sign something, and you get credit, you get points, you get all these other things. Taking your phone out, needing to do your security thing, it's not that much better of an experience from my perspective. But that's But the ultimate test is with the consumer.
Well, Jeff, I want to thank you so much. It sounds like we shouldn't wait till the 23rd to do our shopping, and UPS would be happy.
The 22nd. Do the 22nd. Shop early this year. Shop on the 22nd. Yeah.
Well, you heard it then, and that's a wrap for us. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Michael. Much appreciated.